Okay, cool. I'm good. Just want to be sure. Let's get started. So, how would you like to proceed? Do we want to start from the very beginning? Because you guys have been at this for a while.
Yeah. So I mean, when you say, do you want to start from the beginning? I mean, I think we could do a quick question. So someone have a quick question on how you would get started or something like that.
How you make comics?
Or anybody.
Well, so for us, kind of, we're interested in the part of the process is how do you start from doodling and drawing and getting that into a coherent plot story,
Right. Okay.
and then into something that is marketable.
Right. So I mean, I'll go first because I've probably been doing this the longest for almost 15 years. And I'll just let you know that the first thing that you'll ever create is going to be garbage. There's no way around it. It's never going to be that thing that you ever want to show anyone outside of your family, or someone that you feel like is going to give you fluff. So one of the first things you want to do is to find someone who's going to be very brutally honest with you about how much your stuff sucks. And I think that's where you start out, because a lot of times you get knocked down a lot. And it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up and dust yourself off, because this industry is brutal, and the people in it are brutal, and the people in it are sometimes honest, sometimes dishonest. So it's who you put in your circle that's going to help you the most about getting things completed into a form that you think is going to make it work. It's something someone else besides yourself and someone outside your family is going to want to read, and something someone's going to want to pay for. Because that's your ultimate goal, is to take this and put it into a fashion that someone's going to say, hey, I want to pay $5, $7, $10, $12, $15 for that thing, and then I want to take it home and read it, enjoy it, and then say, give me some more.
Yeah, I think social media is a good place to find people. There are lots of groups like, I can't think of the names of any groups on Facebook currently, but
well, our group, Indie Network.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but people who are willing to trade scripts back and forth. Also, I can tell you, before I started doing my comic book, I didn't really like social media, and I was actually thinking about getting off of social media. But in the year 2023, if you want to be creative, being on social media is not an option. You have to have a presence, because that's how the people who are going to back your Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever other new crowdfunding websites they have are going to find you.
Grant mentioned something very important. So the reason why this is called script to store, which I think is a great term that Marvin made up, I think, is because sure, you may start with doodles and drawings when you're 8, making your character or whatever, but ultimately a comic book starts with a script, not doodles and drawings. So you have to either teach yourself or learn how to write a script. I taught myself. It's not that much different than writing a screenplay. So if you go do screenplays, it's kind of, that's why a lot of people who make comics go into Netflix and things like that, because there's some parallels there with how to write scripts. But it's script to store, so you definitely start with the script, panel by panel, description, dialogue, all those things. We can show you what those look like, but the doodles that come before are just basically your basic character concepts, but you got to have a story, beginning, middle, end, conflict, resolution, denouement, whatever, and that starts with a script. First stage.
So we were talking about social media. Social media can also be a great way for you to find the people who are going to work with you, because I do most of the work on this comic book. Chances are you're probably not going to be able to do all the work yourself. If you look at the credits page of any comic book, the thing is, all of these guys have a part in working on this comic book. Honestly, a lot of these are pseudonyms for stuff that I do. But, and that's a part of the process that a lot of people don't talk about, which is if you want to do a comic book, you'd better start saving money because all of these people, I mean, you see people on Facebook all the time saying like, hey, are there any artists who are willing to work for free? And the answer is usually no.
Well, what do they use? Exposure.
Right.
You're working for exposure.
Or there are people who will say, you know, I can't pay you up front, but I'll give you part of the profit. And the reason why that usually doesn't fly is because artists have realized, like, if you're promising part of the profit, there's probably not going to be any profit. But like I said, I do most of the work, but even with that, the budget for this comic book is like around $2,000, which, thank God for Indiegogo and Kickstarter,
The
because
creative budget or the printing budget, both?
both.
Oh, okay, so combined.
So thank God for Indiegogo and Kickstarter, because the thing is, like, for instance, like the guy, like Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird had a rich uncle who helped them finance Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know about you, but I don't have a rich uncle. So, like I said, thank God. And, you know, the guy who did Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman, his house was on the verge of getting foreclosed on. Well, and I'm not saying this to discourage you guys. I'm just letting you know that this is the reality of making comic books.
It's sort of like expound on. Well, you had a question.
I was just gonna say, so, do you guys do the drawing for the panels
So
and the story?
I have one other
Or
guy.
how does that work?
Necessarily.
I have one other guy who does the initial pencils, and then I ink, color, and do the lettering.
So there's pencils, inks, coloring, and lettering, and editing. And you can do all 4 or even 5. I wouldn't recommend editing yourself, but you can. If you do all 5, it's going to take you a long time. It's going to be very laborious. It's going to be very time consuming. What most comics involve 5 different people doing those jobs. Sometimes one takes 2 of those jobs. So when people just come up and say, oh, did you draw that? That's not how this works. Okay, when I said script, you come with a script first. Who does the script? Not the artist,
Yeah.
usually, unless it's a writer/artist.
Yeah.
It's the writer. So the creator, whoever that is, whether they're writer, artist, or just writer, they do the script first. Then the panels get realized, first pencils, then inks, then colors, then letters, and then the whole thing's edited. And then of course there's the printing cost, which is, like he said, for one of his books is $2,000 all in for art and printing. For me, I don't know, probably about the same or so, you know.
Yeah,
But,
usually between 2 and 3, sometimes up to 4, depending on the people that you get.
What's the run? How many issues is that per book? Like, is that?
That's one issue.
That's just
one issue.
One issue,
Yeah.
yeah.
But how, you're saying one issue, but how many?
No, so this is issue 6 of The Edge.
Yeah, but
So,
how many books do you
Oh,
get?
he's saying like how many copies of each issue.
oh, how many do you print?
Yeah.
Depends.
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
saying 2,000 for one book, right?
oh no, $2,000 for
One issue of
for
one
production.
book.
Yeah,
Right, and then you print 1,000, 10,000, 5,000. How many other books you think you need? So you got like books from distributor, books for conventions, books for your online store.
Yeah, I mean, if books are, if it's a 2,000s for one issue and the printer tells you, oh, it's $250 to print the book, then divide that.
Yeah.
250 into 2,000, you're making like 800 books, whatever. So it's, you know, it's somewhere between 500 and 1,000 books for an issue initially, and then you see how people, respond. You know?
So from start to finish, you're probably going to be into $5,000 to $6,000 for every book that you produce.
So when he was talking about, or when Grant was talking about saving money or having money or whatever,
Or having a rich uncle.
or having a rich uncle, these are things that my process was. It took me about like 5 years to come up with the concept of, the theme of thieves when I actually decided or had the courage to actually put it out. So, I had my job, knew I was going to put out something, so just put some money aside, 401k and everything, fortunately, to do something at some point. So once I actually got the script together, you guys were talking about, having to, getting beat down and, things getting torn down.
Yeah.
I actually ended up joining like a writer's group. So a writer's group actually took my stuff apart, and pilfered it and everything, and got it to a point where I was confident that would actually be able to, put it out there. And then found my artist. He's actually from Pittsburgh here. His name is Dan Eakins. He does like some really good, stuff for like Odyssey Inc. and some other stuff and everything. But was actually able to find him at one of these conventions because I was scouring all over like Instagram and DeviantArt, online. It's hard to find an artist. It's hard to find a good artist who actually do the work, at a decent rate.
Yeah.
So once I got to that point, Kickstarter, we talk about like, Kickstarter, crowdfunding and everything, getting your friends and family involved, and then actually, Graham was talking about going online social media, promoting the thing on, your Kickstarters, and getting the funding from that to create one issue. And then doing these things several times over to create subsequent issues. So my plan is to do like 24 of these, but we'll see how it goes,
Yeah, I was actually joking with somebody the other day where it's like, it feels like if you were gonna make like a chart of how your time is spent, it's like that much is actually spent working on the comic book, and that is like all the other stuff around doing the comic book, like sending out the newsletter, going on YouTube channels, going on podcasts. I mean, that's the world we live in
right
now. I mean, you can fight against it or you can accept that it's the world we live in now.
I think another two, and I'm gonna just speak for us as creators, we'd rather be creating than doing the business portion.
Right.
But we realize that, the business portion is what's gonna make everything work, everything just, keep moving forward.
Right.
So
and if not, then you have to pay someone else to do it.
Do you do your own marketing, or do you have a marketing person?
we do it all right now.
You know what? I tried working with a marketing person. The problem is it's hard to quantify marketing, because I think she was going on different like Facebook groups and stuff and posting stuff, but I wasn't seeing like a real big return on the money I was paying her.
I mean, it's almost the same thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine.
No.
What social media channels and websites do you find most successful for what you guys do?
I like Instagram.
Instagram.
I like Instagram because
Instagram.
It used to be Facebook. Facebook's algorithms has pretty much like bottomed out for anyone who is independent of their market. So they're always looking for you to pay in to them because they actually squash posts. So what we noticed is that if you post your Kickstarter link, it'll get squashed.
What do you mean by squash?
Squash means that it rips the algorithm out of it, so you say like, I've got like 4,000, 5,000 people following me on Facebook, and probably 200 of them see my posts. If I post a link to something, it goes down to 50.
You have to pay to.
Yeah,
the
and then they
analytics.
want you because it's like free advertising I'm doing. So they want me to pay for advertising, which then filters out to those other people that should be seeing my post because they're following me.
Right.
But yeah,
Does Instagram not do that? Considering they're both owned by the same company.
Right, well, Instagram is
it's not
because
as bad.
it's more visual.
Instagram doesn't allow you to put links into your posts.
Isn't there a new crowdfunding thing just for comic books?
Yeah. Crowdfunder, and then there's
Want me to list all of them?
Here we go for it.
Okay, I'm ready to list all of them because some people will forget. Okay, there are about 5 right now. There is Kickstarter, which is by far the biggest. You'll get the biggest response if you use Kickstarter, period. Then second would be Indiegogo. Indiegogo allows you to do a bunch of things that Kickstarter doesn't, including keeping your comic online indefinitely as a store. It's called In Demand.
There's also no minimum for.
There's no minimum. You get funded even if you don't reach your goal, I think, right? And which is nice. And finally, they take a lower percentage. So Kickstarter, like the biggest, Indiegogo second. Then there's 3 more you should look at. Okay, the one that's just for comics. Well, there's 2 that are just for comics now. One is Zoop. Zoop is curated. You have to be invited to be on it, or you have to be approved to be on it. So that there's Zoop. There is also Crowdfunder, Fundr, which is new. They don't accept all projects. They curate it as well. Finally, there is a great site called Fund My Comic, which is not curated. They're kind of free speech defenders. So, and that's all comics as well. So again, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Crowdfunder, Zoop, and Fund My Comic are the main options.
I mean, I'm sure at the time we've been talking, they've created another one, but yeah.
Those are the ones that are reliable right now, that have full, all many fulfilled projects at this point.
I mean, I do Kickstarter because
Most people do.
honestly, like when I tried using one of the other ones, and honestly, the question I kept getting was like, what the heck is Zoop, or what the heck is Indiegogo? Like, I mean, Kickstarter is like the Coke of
People know what it
crowdfunding.
is.
People know what it
Yeah.
is.
It's the familiar brand.
Yeah.
And what we found is that with the other ones, you have to bring your audience with you.
Yeah.
So people who are getting tens of thousands of dollars on Indiegogo are because they've brought their audience with them from their YouTube or from their social media or from their newsletters.
Did we talk about YouTube?
Yeah. Well, we haven't got there yet. So
Oh,
we haven't even talked about the script yet.
Oh, the script to store, yeah.
So I mean, when you're writing a script, and we mentioned like screenplay is an option for someone to go back and forth. But what I found is that during the current writer's strike going on, there are a few writers who are trying to go to comics, and a few of them that I've talked to are having that problem with screenplay versus script, because with a comic script, one of the things you have to remember is that you have to get someone to flip the page. So when you're writing something, you just can't say scene end at that and go to the next scene. You have to have something there that's going to make someone say, what happens on the next panel? So on this page, you see we have a person getting out of a vehicle. Well, I have to go find out why she's getting. What's going to happen on that next page when she gets out the vehicle? Oh, she's causing havoc. So you have to have something on that odd page to say, I need to go to that next page. So you have to be in that script to say, what's happening at that last panel to make someone to go to the next page. That's something you don't have to worry about when you're making a movie, because it's free flowing with a movie and it's something always happening. So there's always motion. But one of the things they talk about when you're doing a screenplay is that it's the James Bond method. Something has to happen every 2 minutes to keep someone interested in the movie. That's something that they originally learned with James Bond, is that something has to happen to keep someone interested. People have very short attention spans, and if someone is sitting there and they're just like in a Quentin Tarantino movie, someone's going to tune out. And like, I don't care what's going on, why are they still talking? Someone do something. Something has to happen. It's something that they've learned with horror movies, where how many horror movies at the beginning of the movie you have to get the first kill? Like in Scream, there's always a first kill in the beginning of the movie to keep you interested in what's going to happen next. So when you're writing that script, you have to be able to get someone to say, I want to go to that next page. If it doesn't do it, the person goes, whatever, put it down. Right. I don't want anything to do with it.
They tried your first issue, don't want to go even further because they see how your writing style is going and everything. So you're taking a dive into the ocean and hoping that people swim with you, in your ocean of goodies.
Right. So with any comic, the art sells the first issue. The script is what is going to bring them back for the next one. So the longer you go along that story, you have to engross someone to get them to say, not only do I want to turn that page, where's that next issue coming out? When are you going to get to issue 6, to 7, to 8, to 9, to 10? And if you can't do that, then you're lost. So once you're done with the script, and you have to find a good art team. You can't skimp on any of that. So everything else carries the book. So the art has to be good. The colors have to be good. And for the love of all that's holy, make sure you get someone that knows how to letter. I have seen books.
How to what?
Letter. So when you're talking about the text.
Oh.
So you as when you're doing the writing and the art, you have to make sure that what you're writing fits in those panels. You don't want you can cut panels, but you don't want it to be something continuous. You don't want a balloon here that someone's talking down here and having to draw a line to it down there because you filled it up with too much dialogue. So what ends up happening sometimes is that I have to go back and rewrite the script because I find that when Mark, the artist, finishes the art, it doesn't fit. So then I have to figure out, okay, so does this change the story now that I have to have this person saying a single sentence instead of 3 or 4 sentences? Right. So those are those things you have to keep in mind as you're writing. That does it fit in the panel? Is it obscuring anything that I think is important? So it's not just you as the writer that has to know this. The artist has to know that too, because they're the ones. If you're not giving them breakdowns, so you're drawing like stick figures or something, you're not giving them breakdowns, then they're going to draw based on what you've written. And if they go overboard with some things and you're like, oh man, I wish you would have done that. It looks good, but it doesn't work with my script. Now you're starting all over again.
Breakdowns would be the comic book version of storyboarding. Does anyone know what storyboarding is? Like you draw the scene like by hand, like very rudimentary.
Can I ask you guys, do any of you guys work Marvel style? So what Marvel style is, by the way, I don't recommend this. The reason why Stan Lee worked this way, because Stan Lee was lazy and he wanted to do as little work as possible. But he...
Very successful lazy, but...
So what that is you just give the artist like a brief description of, this is what we want on this page, and you don't write the dialogue until the art gets back to you.
Yeah.
Now, I don't like that style because I don't know how you're supposed to be able to draw something if you don't know. Like, how are you supposed to draw somebody's facial expressions if you don't know what they're saying?
That's why Jack Kirby was so good.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe if you're working with Jack Kirby, then you can do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what we're talking about. It depends on that artist. Like with working with my artist, like at the beginning, I gave him everything that I wanted on that page, and now I don't. I say, hey, this happens. Free roll the rest of it, because I trust him to come back with something. And we've been working together for 12 years now, and we've changed one thing. Is one of the characters in the first book, oh actually this guy Blaine, who has an action figure coming soon, he had shoulder length hair when we first started, and I hated it. And that's like, so in the first issue, we put him in a position where his hair gets burned off, and then he comes in with a different hairstyle. And we actually have a part in the book that's coming up where we want to explain his hair that doesn't move. It's just like static hair. He doesn't put any product in it, just doesn't move. It just stays where, yeah. He gets up in the morning, his hair is fine, he just goes out for the day.
So one of the points that I wanted to make was you use the method that works for you, because I don't actually sit down and write a script.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like a very quick first draft, but I go almost immediately to drawing on paper, because honestly, I can't wrap my head around, if you don't know how to draw, I don't know how you figure out how many panels will fit on page. Because I've done pages that have 4 panels and it looks busy. Mm-hmm. But then I've also done pages that have 9 panels and it doesn't look busy. So that's why I immediately go to drawing.
Yeah. Like I said, that it depends on the artist that you're working with, because they're going to bring that second. It's like you've got a camera and the artist has a camera, and you both have to be able to be on the same page with those cameras and pointing at the right places to make sure that scene that you're envisioning works for them also.
You got a question?
Yeah, so I'm not a comic writer, so this might be a stupid question. So you mentioned that you don't write a script, right? You just is that you do?
Okay.
So do you storyboard each page?
Yeah, I mean, when I say I do a script, it's a super quick script. But then what I do is I draw out what is happening, and I'll write the dialogue
amateur
on,
sketch
on the
of.
paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Manny was talking about, with storyboarding.
But you write a script.
I'm a writer.
Yeah.
So I write a script,
So when
very,
you-
very detailed script that tells.
By page?
By panel.
By panel, okay.
Yeah.
I never do more than 5 panels in a page. Asymmetry is always more exciting than symmetry. I mean, splash pages, which are one big panel, are always fun, and I do a lot of those too. But I try never to do more than 5 panels on a page, because then shit just gets too tiny.
Right. And
Right.
I'm a writer myself, so I like the Alan Moore type style where I'm very dialogue driven. So I do fit more than 5 panels on one page, and sometimes I do have to take it back just to not create so much craziness on the page and everything.
So you write out kind of like a scene description, what is in this panel.
Right. What's in the panel, drawing attention to specific things. So that coffee mug in the corner that's going to get picked up and smashed into someone's face later on, you have to establish that. So it's what is it?
Right.
The Chekhov's gun. If it's shown, then it has to be used. So if you're going to show that coffee mug, I want to use that later on, which means you have to establish the coffee mug is on that table, and the artist has to know that. And then you say, okay, later on, because most of the time the artist is going to go back and say, hey, wait a minute, was there a coffee mug on that table?
Like, yeah.
Right. It just appeared out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of stuff is also why it's good to have like an editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing
Continuity
too.
editor.
Continuity editor is like one of the biggest things to keep track of what you're doing, because as a creative, you can get so lost into your story. You know, you have to go back to try to find out, okay, what's going on here, what's going on there. If you have somebody outside, it's good to have an outside presence, because
Yeah.
you could get so caught up in your
Absolutely.
stuff. If somebody can take a look at your work overhead, then yeah, you'll get a better.
Everybody knows what continuity is? Okay, good.
So, I mean, one of the things that, like I said before, is that have someone that's going to be honest with you about what you're doing.
That's your editor.
Yeah, the editor, like, I mean, it could be an editor or someone that you trust that is going to tell you the truth and tell you to stop it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to go so far into something and then they tell you it's terrible, and then you get that depression part of that creator process, and like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And then one of the things that I wanted is that the driving force is I'll keep going. Like, even if someone tells you it's terrible, try again. Don't ever give up on something if you feel like that you want to do it, or it's a dream of yours. Don't give up, because you'll regret it later. It'll be 20 years later, you'll be like, man, I wish I would have done that. Because you never know. Like, it could be the next Walking Dead, or the next Star Wars, or Matrix, or whatever. Could be that thing that you create that brings the whole world together and to hold hands and sing songs.
And it doesn't even have to be that big either. You know, you can have medium success and still have a feel good presence about it, because people, so long as there's always going to be somebody reading something, you know, and you just gotta, if you got that one that's really into your work, then you need to find 1,000 more of those, and then you know, multiply that. So somebody's always going to be a fan of something. It may not be, you know, I may not be a fan of his stuff, but I am a fan. He may not be a fan of mine and everything, but it's there's always something out there for somebody.
Did you want to say something?
No, I was just saying, give us time to do this thing.
Oh yeah. So I mean, so we finished the script. We've got it out to the artists. We've got it out to get colors. We got it out for lettering. Now you're talking about, I want this book to be bought by other people. So there's many methods to do that, and they said that print is not the only option. So you can have digital comics. So you've got Comixology. I always forget the name of that newer one.
Comixology is now Amazon.
Well, the other one. What's it called?
Webtoons?
No. This the other
Webtoons
digital.
is still
Yeah,
another
the other
distribution
digital
module.
store.
Indie Planet?
No. There's
There's a bunch.
I'll remember what it is later, and then I'll remember, and then I'll forget, and you guys will have to come to the table and find out. So it's a
Or you can create your own website.
Right. Yeah, you can do
have
your own
people,
website.
You know, go to your own stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, see your own digital product, get a
Right.
preview, you know, have it put out there.
You can sell comics directly from your own website if you're really good at driving people to it using your socials and other methods. And of course, you print them and you sell them to Comic-Cons, but then Marvin, I think, was going to talk about some distribution.
Yeah, distribution.
arms. Yeah.
So your distribution methods currently, you have Diamond Comics, you have Lunar, and you have coming soon to the United States Universal. So, and that's that you're pitching to them your product. So they're going to ask for a business plan. What is your plan for getting this book into the store, like in the store, and then someone else's hands? What sells your book over book X? How are you going to pitch it to other people? So you're building out this whole entire plan to give to these distributors for them to approve you to go into distribution. So with Diamond, the first thing they're going to do is take 60% off the top of the book.
Which means it's almost impossible to make a profit.
Right. So
Unless you
you're
sell a ton, yeah.
right. You're trying to get as many books into their hands as possible. So you have to sell a lot of books through there. Right now we're looking to work with Lunar and Universal. I don't know what their split is, but that's something you have to keep in mind.
Basically why you go through Diamond is to build up your audience to the point where maybe eventually your audience will follow you to a different distribution method.
But conversely, and that makes sense. If you are really popular, sure, people can follow you and you can go indie, you can split off. because Diamond takes a huge chunk. But Diamond is more desperate nowadays because a lot of the bigger companies have left them for the other distributors, and Image just left, which is nuts. So, you know, they'll be more likely to take you on early, but I still suggest giving yourself a couple years before you even go to Diamond. Put out a series of books and personally distribute them to a like 2-3 hour zone around your house. Get them in like 20 comic shops. I've done 220 in North America. I don't necessarily recommend staying on the phone all day like I do. However, the Ninja Turtles, those Dave Sim, those people did that back in the day in the 80s. They just got on the phone, sold directly. But I would recommend even before going to Diamond, you have to, like Marvin said, you have to have a business plan, you have to have a little bit of a track record, make a series of books, maybe your first 4 comics, whatever, you know, not collected in a trade yet, which is another thing that you want to do. But take it to stores in like a 2-3 hour radius, cons in a 2-3 hour radius, build up a sales profile of maybe 1,000 copies sold, then go to Diamond and say, hey, look, I sold X amount of copies in this area. I'd like to take it nationwide, continent-wide. Can you help me? And then present them with the plan. Like I would say, don't go to Diamond like, you know, the day
Not day one.
Yeah, not on day one. Give it like a year and a half, maybe 2, and then spring it on them. But
Right.
yeah, they're more likely to take you now than they were 10 years ago.
Right, and generally they're not going to accept the book unless there are multiple issues available anyway. Unless it's a single book. But the last piece of that is that we have actually built up a list of stores that do accept indie books and are really indie friendly, and they will work with you. And the one thing that you'll understand is that if you do go through Diamond, your first issue is going to sell well. The second issue is where you're going to go that way, because it happens to everyone. But issue 3 gives you a chance to build your audience back up, and you can usually stay in that mode as you go along. But it's going to be this and this every time. Doesn't matter who you are, what the book is. That issue 2 is going to drop. So it's all a matter of perseverance, understanding the market, and making sure that you can get your name out there. So then the last part of that is YouTube. So get on YouTube channels if you can. Like there are a lot out there who allow people to come on and sell their stuff and talk about their work. You can start your own YouTube channel. But again, that's something where it's going to start very slowly and you're going to build up. So another thing, don't get discouraged, because I don't go on my YouTube a lot. I don't do like any live videos. I have 90 people on my YouTube. I got 5,000 everywhere else. So because I don't make live videos or do a lot on there.
What do you do?
Oh, I just post like I post the videos of like trailers for the book.
Okay.
Or I play video games on there sometimes, or I like when I'm on other people's channels.
Yeah, what we do is we live stream a lot.
Do that.
We live stream a lot on other people's channels, comic-related channels,
Okay.
especially those. There's probably 50, 60 of them that are prominent at this point, maybe even more. Look, it's proliferated. YouTube is the #1 promo for indie comics.
Yeah.
And you go on the live stream, you talk about your book, they mention your Kickstarter, they ask you questions, kind of like an interview. And you know, sometimes you hobnob with other creators in the same program. That's always fun to make connections. But yeah, live streaming is very important. You can always you know, archive that and then point people to it. They can watch it afterwards as a reference. So.
Anybody here have aspirations into making their own comic? Oh, right.
She does.
Soaking it up. You know,
She does.
you're
I
young.
mean, hopefully this doesn't seem intimidating. Something else.
Well, I mean, hold on, I want to stop you there. It should be intimidating. You should go into something with the idea that you have to build something for yourself. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Honestly, if I had known how much work
Exactly.
was going to be involved in doing a comic book before I started, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Because like the reason, like I just assumed like, oh, you know, I'll make a comic book, I'll send it to Image, Image will publish it. Like, you know, that sort of thing happens all the time. I didn't realize like, oh no, nobody's gonna publish a comic book like for a first-time comic book creator. And also, like, even if somebody does publish your comic book, you're still gonna have to promote it.
Mm-hmm.
So really, you're gonna have to end up doing the work anyways.
Right.
But
And that's what I'm saying about, that's where the intimidation part comes in, is the work. Yeah.
But be excited.
Yeah,
If you're a creator, always be excited about creating something for someone else, because someone will always want to read it. So the business part, that'll come later. Get all your stuff together first, and then when you're ready to put it toward, then you can start making your business plan and go from there. But don't look at it as all one thing that has to be done. Steps need to be taken.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, start off with a Facebook page, wait a couple weeks, then you start doing a newsletter. Then maybe a couple weeks later you can do your website. It doesn't have to all be like at one time. Like, and the same thing with like conventions. Like, you can start off with like some posters. You don't have to have like Ted Sakura has like a crazy like display, and that's intimidating to me when I see it. But then I think like, okay, that's something that I'll get there, just like maybe 4 years down the road.
Right. That's
So,
why
but
we've got
before all that, how
Before
much
that.
content did you guys have before you ever thought, I need to go onto Facebook and start
You
shoving
can
this
start
out?
promoting with just a few pages.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Manny, do you want us to wrap up? So that
I'd like 10.
did you have anything else you wanted to?
I think we're in a good place. Like, I mean, if you need help with scripting and things like that, we've got templates that we can share. I would.
ComicsBurgh.com. You can go to that website.
My
email
one
us
last
and
question,
everything.
if I may.
Yeah.
So you mentioned teams for these books. Doing one writer, artists, editors. Where do you find those groups of people? So like.
The search bar on Facebook.
What do you type in?
I think one is called Connecting Artists and Writers. Like,
Oh, it's so many groups out there.
there's so many groups. You can go to specific, like there are groups specifically just for colorists. There are groups specifically just for letterers. Really, or you can just go through Instagram and see like, oh, I like this guy's art, I like that guy's art, I don't
Start
like that
following
guy's art.
them on Facebook. Treat it like a Google. Type in colorist, comic book colorist. It'll be a bunch of different groups that you can join and or whatever.
Now, on the other side of the spectrum, how do you find writers?
Same way.
Same way?
Writers,
Okay.
comic writers. It'll be a bunch of writing groups and everything you can join and everything, and start. The good thing about these groups that they are a good networking center for you too. They'll if they like you, they'll start commenting on your posts, and you ask questions, they'll answer. Give you different advice on ways that you can go to get your stuff out there. You can start posting stuff that you write or draw or whatever. They'll comment and give you feedback and. Just help you out. People are there to help you out.
And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to message somebody just because you think they're like way too good for you. Like this artist, like in my opinion, he's one of the best artists out there. I mean, he's working for DC now, and the worst they can say is no.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's going to reach out and punch you in the face. But yes, if you come past our table, like I can help you get sorted and with all the information and that I have.
We're at E2, E3, and E4, all next to each other as ComicsBurgh, and I was going to spend the last 10 minutes presenting. Well, we're part of ComicsBurgh. You can have that, yeah. It's up to you.
Thanks, guys.
Get your
Thank
phone.
you.
Don't forget the phone on the chair.
Yeah, you'll see the big ComicsBurgh sign.
Yeah, it's huge.
So,
You can't miss it.
Can't miss
It
it.
looks just like that.
Okay.
Just getting like prime real estate as it goes on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we all four of us make comics. I make comics too. My cover artist has 700 credits with DC. So he's been working for DC for 25 years. He is the second most prolific person to live in Pittsburgh in the comic industry, next to Ron Friends. His name is Jason Wright. He'll be here later. Meet him at our table. He can sign your Green Lantern and Sinestro books or whatever else he's colored in the past 20 years. All right, so this is Casey. Casey is one of our main actresses in my TV show, which is also called Heroinburg, like the comic book. And it is a live-action television show. It's the only one in North America, the only live-action superhero show currently produced in North America. We're not part of Netflix. We're not part of Amazon. Get all that out of your mind. We're not cosplay. These are actual TV shows. It's like the CW, except produced for $1,000 an episode instead of $1 million. Okay? You can make your own DIY television show. I don't know. A lot of people do that, but nobody does superheroes. at least not original ones. I have no idea why. They've done it in the past, they've all stopped. There was one in Canada, one in North Carolina, they stopped. We've been going for 6 years, we have 2 seasons, 21 episodes, 9 custom episodes ordered by our fans, and 3 comics, that's what we do. And the way we sell it is just the way I sell comics, direct. We sell pay downloads. You own the actual product. It's a 30-minute live action comic book for like $7, the same as you would pay for like a premium indie book, pretty much. Yeah, it takes us about 3 months to make an episode. Again, scripting screenplays is similar to scripting comic books. You're looking through a camera either way, right? That's why it helps to have, it might help you to have a little bit of a camera background when you're making comics, or vice versa, because you can think of how things look within a frame. If you guys have been, I was going to just play the very end of our second finale, so you can just kind of second season finale. You can see what kind of a little of the effects look like, just about 9 minutes. If you have any questions about how to make a television show, or if you would like to talk to Casey about her acting in the show, she plays Devana, the Slavic warrior, kind of like a cross between Wonder Woman and Xena. And yeah, she's not in this clip, but the stuff that Casey does is very similar to what you'll see right here. There we go.
If you want, I mean, I do have like a workable.
Yeah, you can put it on.
No, let's not mess with that.
Okay.
And you want to bring it over here?
I do not want to mess with any technology right now.
Well, he says you want to move it so people.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I was gonna say, no, we get that.
Always very